Welcome, everybody. I know there's a Warrior game on, so started at 6. So I know that I'm assuming that's why they're not here. Otherwise, they of course would be here. More people would be here. My name is Linda Locke. I'm president of the Berryessa Citizens Advisory Council. We have a guest speaker tonight representing the Open Spaces Authority. So we want to get things moving here. So we have some time to let him have his presentation and be able to ask questions. All right. The meeting, the minutes were they sent out? Were they sent out?
I need to send them out electronically. I apologize. I'll get it to you tomorrow.
Got the agenda. Yeah, the most important thing. Got the agenda. Got the agenda. That's good. Thank you. And Susan isn't here tonight, but she did send her treasurer's report, so I will give that. And this is the beginning balance on May 1st, 2022 was $3,652.05. We had 2 membership payments of a total of $20. We had expenses of Zoom, the website fees, the robocall and brochure printing. And so 126 and 145. And the ending balance as of May 31st was $3,400.75. We still have the grant from the city of San Jose. We are working with that, and we'll have a little report on that. But that was a $10,000 grant from quite a little while back, but it's for use for the park and the pond area. So we'll see how that goes, but we'll have a little report on that later. Oh, you know, our police and sheriff aren't here tonight. Oh. That's odd. Oh, I know actually Captain Trayer was out of town and he was going to send somebody else. So I'll have to let him know. And usually, and I know I sent them an email, both of them, the sheriff department. So we may be done a little earlier than we expected. All right. So tonight we have for us representing Assembly Member Alex Lee for our reports and official updates. And Jariah is here. So you have some news for us.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing okay. I'll keep it brief for everyone so that you can have time for the presentation. I just wanted to let everyone know that all the assembly bills has moved to the Senate side and that the assembly member has passed 13 bills onto the Senate. And some highlights would include AB 2949. This would exempt vehicles registered to U.S. military veterans from paying tolls on toll bridges or highways or any other toll facility. And AB 1867 would require schools applying for bond funds for the state to include sustainable bathroom fixtures to conserve water to help combat the drought happening right now. And also AB 2053, our social housing bill, has also passed to the Senate side. And so that would help mitigate the housing crisis that we're experiencing by allowing the state to build housing as well. There's also AB 1944, which would allow elected officials to participate remotely without publishing their private addresses. So if they want to call in, they don't have to put in their private address if they're calling from home. And AB 2031, this would protect mobile home residents' rights by ensuring that they can bring in a representative, like an attorney, to a meeting with park management if they need to. And also past events that we had this past month was pretty busy. So we actually had a rebates town hall yesterday in Milpitas, and Linda was there actually. We were talking about it. So we were showing constituents how you can get some rebates by conserving water, or if you convert to a more sustainable vehicle. We have that posted on our website if you missed it. And so you can check out our website if you want to check that out. And last May, we hosted our AAPI honoree event honoring 6 honorees, leaders and nonprofits in our district. And we're doing it again this month for Pride Month. And so we're going to be honoring 4 LGBTQ plus individuals and nonprofits at the end of the month. And finally, on June 24th in Milpitas, we're having a movie night. Well, the city of Milpitas is hosting it, and we're having a table. So you can come by and visit if you'd like, and then watch a movie afterwards. It's going to be really nice. The city of Milpitas, I believe, does it every month, so for the summer. So it should be really fun. Yeah, thank you. Oh, yes, you have a question. I'm not sure if they serve popcorn, but you can definitely bring some. I think they might have some stands. I'm excited. They have it on their Milpitas website too.
Thank you, my dear. Well, we'll go back to the police department, and we have a representative tonight. Let me see, I have to write his name down. Because I didn't write it right. So Lieutenant, is it Lieutenant?
No,
Sergeant. Oh, what see, I know. Walking from there to here, I already forgot. Okay.
You're limited to one question. We met last week. Definitely, my name's Sergeant Mark.
Oh, you have to use this.
Oh, I feel like I'm seeing. Oh, now we're recording. All right. Hi, guys. I'm Sergeant Marfia with the San Jose Police Department. I'm here on behalf of Captain Traer, who is currently attending a leadership conference in Boston. He wanted to send a lieutenant, and the lieutenant respectfully said, "No, I get to do it." So, not a whole lot that I have to report, other than some programs that Captain Traer had started over the last couple of months. One of them being a traffic calming project to try to bring down collisions, pedestrian involvement, where people were getting hurt by careless driving throughout the different neighborhoods in Foothill. Now, keep in mind, Foothill Division covers all the way from Milpitas all the way down to South San Jose, the Evergreen Foothills, all the way up into the foothills over here, and all the way into where 101 is, close to downtown. So it's a big swath of land for our division. A couple other things that he's been working on, obviously, is quality of life cars that he brings in on weekdays and weekends to deal with specific issues such as either homelessness or vagrancy, burglary suppression during the daytime. Now that school's out, more kids are going to be out during the day. They're not being looked at between 8 and 4. So those other things that he has in progress that he brings officers in on overtime for, as well as gang suppression cars, which go into the particular hot spots of neighborhoods that have high gang activity or have had issues in the past. Up and coming, obviously, is the 4th of July. Yay, America. We have a staffing plan for 4th of July specifically for that weekend. And they're going to be bringing in officers and another sergeant on overtime to deal specifically with fireworks related calls. Obviously, hopefully that doesn't lead into any fires or any other issues that we have. But they're working closely with the fire department on staffing that and just making sure that from the fire side that they have adequate resources that are back on that day as well. Now, I know that there's been some things that have occurred in the neighborhood or close through in the neighborhood over the last couple of weeks and got people apprehensive and on edge. I will tell you right now, there's not a whole lot about the individual investigations that I can disclose, simply because we're trying to protect the integrity of the investigation. And there are still some suspects that are outstanding, so we don't want them to know what we know, type of thing. So with that in mind, I'll be more than happy to take any questions that you may have, and I will try to be as thorough and as honest as I possibly can, given the scope of some of the information may be a little bit sensitive. Yes, sir.
I've lived in the same house in Berryessa for almost 50 years. This home invasion on Silvergate Drive, the first time I started thinking, maybe this is the place that I can't live safely or comfortably. If you're vigilant, I don't know what that means. So I have to be looking over my shoulder every single minute of the day. does this thing take you guys completely off guard? Something that you're now able to do and reduce the threat? Having 6 people come into my home and hold one of my family members hostage, or it forced me to drain my bank account. This was a horrifying event. I think this goes a little bit beyond the ordinary.
So you are absolutely correct that it was a very horrifying event. I was actually working that evening, and I was a supervisor in charge for the majority of those 2 specific incidents. I had been talking with some of the officers on day shift from the weekend prior, where there were some other incidents that were involved. Like I said, there's certain portions of the investigation that I can't disclose publicly. What I can tell you is that while these were not isolated events, meaning that there's more than one, it, for all intents and purposes, looks like it was isolated to one group of individuals that were responsible for these particular incidences. Yeah, over the course of a few days. You know, there's not much lip service that I can pay to, you know, relieve the fears or apprehension that you may have, or that anybody in this room may have, about potentially being a victim themselves. You know, whether it was already happened to you, or, you know, something that could happen in the future. You know, unfortunately, we can't predict crime, but we can respond to it in a variety of different ways. Now, we had a fairly robust meeting with some of the homeowners in the actual area last week. I think we met last week, where we discussed different tactics and ideas. And I will say, I can confidently say that there are a number of the individuals responsible that are currently in custody, and the remaining should be in custody shortly, without disclosing our operational information. That's about all I can really disclose right now. We appreciate it. We do have a volunteer program, a Volt program with the police department, where citizens can volunteer and go through a modified Citizens Academy. And they do a variety of things in conjunction with the community and the police department, such as helping set up neighborhood watches, attending meetings. I've had several in the past that have helped with paperwork in the various units when I was working in sexual assaults and tracking sex offenders, which was my previous responsibility before I came back to patrol. I had one assigned to me, and she was lovely, and was a great help in terms of providing us, you know, just general assistance. We did talk last week about the Neighborhood Watch program. It's run through our Community Services Division. And on our website, sjpd.org, if you look for Neighborhood Watch or search the keywords Community Services, there is a person that's assigned to each division that works with each captain, and they will come out and provide a presentation for a group of neighbors who wish to band together and either hold weekly, monthly, or bi-monthly, you know, meetings about things that are going on. And it kind of gives you just another avenue to be able to have a voice in how your neighborhood is policed and where the resources go. And most importantly, it allows us an open line of communication to be able to listen to you, tell us what the problems are that we may not necessarily know about, that doesn't it doesn't show in crime trends or necessarily in calls for service. What we had discussed last week is the idea of vigilance. And to me, vigilance is saying something. You know, if there's something that bothers you, no matter how minute, to the point that you're willing to pick up the phone and call us, and then we have the opportunity to know what's going on or what's bothering the neighborhood, then we can now use that information to do targeted events.
Did you say call us, you mean 911 or is it through that whole 311 rigmarole?
All right, so I'm going to give you a little bit of information here. So if you want to get your cell phones out or you have a pen or pencil, I'm going to give you some information that is going to, it's going to change because 311 doesn't no longer exist. As a matter of fact, I think if you call 311 right now, you just are on hold indefinitely. Yeah, they use it for city services. Like you are correct, but it no longer goes to the police department. So from your cell phone, the direct line for non-emergency numbers is 408-277-8900. 8900. From your cell phone, if you want to call 911 directly to the San Jose Police Department, it's 408-277-8911. And the reason being is that every cell phone provider has their towers, right? And so each cell phone hooks up to a tower. It used to be in the past that all cell phone 911 calls automatically went to San Francisco CHP, Golden Gate Division. And then they would have to ask you a bunch of questions to figure out where you were, find out you're not on a freeway, you're not involved in a car accident, and then transfer the call to the appropriate agency, whether or not it was San Jose, the sheriff's office, Milpitas. And then that, you imagine the lag time when you're having an emergency, how impactful those minutes are. So that's one thing, right? So it doesn't matter if you call the 911 emergency line or the non-emergency line. The first few questions that the call taker is going to ask are, hi, who are you? What emergency are you reporting? And if your response is, I don't have an emergency, but I have a problem that an officer needs to respond for, then they're going to say, okay, let me make sure, put you on hold, and let me make sure that we don't have any other emergency callers because of the staffing. And then it'll go to one of the call takers who are specifically assigned for non-emergency events. So just 911 call, any call taker that's available picks up. So that answer your question? Yes, sir. Sure. The emergency one, 408-277-8911. That's from your cell phone. Now, just remember, from your cell phone now in California, you have to dial 1, even if you want to dial the same area code, right? Too many people, too many numbers. You had your hand up right there earlier. Yes, sir. So the 4 events that I'm aware of were ranging in time frame between noon and 6 p.m. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, during the daytime? Hmm. Really? I don't know if I could use Christmas catalogs twice a day. Yeah. So mail theft is something that the police department will deal with. We do work with the postal inspector hand in hand. The postal inspector has primary jurisdiction for any theft of mail, although it's still a state law and we can still enforce it. So if there is somebody that's wandering around the neighborhood that you don't recognize, or possibly you see them reaching in or carrying, various items of paper, and we happen to dispatch an officer and run across this individual and they're in possession of items that clearly do not belong to them, then yes, we can take enforcement action. Oh, I would love to get into staffing, but unfortunately, um, we are not hiring at a rate fast enough to keep up with retirements. And that's just the God's honest truth. Um, I think that, when we talk about staffing, I think generally people are just kind of taken aback by the number of officers that we have working. So tonight there is 79 officers working for the entire city. As I said before, we're broken up into 4 different divisions. You probably heard somebody rattle something off similar to this. I have 2 districts that are within Foothill Division, and for those 2 districts that run from Story Road all the way up to Milpitas 101 and into the East Foothills up off of Suncrest, I have 9 officers that cover that geographical area. So when our primary responsibility obviously is handling 911 and emergency services, when we do get phone calls, sometimes there is a lag time before I can get officers dispatched to it. And it's solely based on the priority. And the priority is obviously preservation of life, right? First, in dealing with people who have either violent episodes or violent incidents. And then it starts going down from there in terms of how fast I can get officers to other crimes that are occurring. Now, I am not going to tell you that having your mail stolen is not very impactful to the individual who is potentially a victim of identity theft or anything else, or any other thing later on as a result of having that type of theft done. But I think we can all agree as human beings that you can replace paper, that our focus right now is on the priority events that involve people that are hurt or in serious need of police intervention, in whatever's going on in their life. You're welcome. Mm. Yes. I, I will tell you this, anytime that you call the police department, it generates a case number, right? That case number, it can, many things can be done with it, right? So as the individual who is a victim of a car burglary or something like that, most insurance companies are going to say, have you reported it to the police? Was there a police report that was taken? And if so, is there an incident number? And that's just insurance company policy, right? That they, whether you're in a car accident or not. I will tell you that simply calling us and telling us about an event that happened absolutely helps with us being able to drill down into the area in terms of the types of crimes that are happening. And then be able to work with other units to try to put together either a plan of action or try to link crimes to suspects that are occurring in other parts of the city based on either video evidence, eyewitness descriptions, vehicle descriptions, or the fact that we catch them with stuff like somebody's mail, in another part of the city. And we start kind of linking those things together. Now, I'll probably get shot by my officers when I say this. If you called police for services, it doesn't matter what the dispatcher tells you. It doesn't matter what the call taker tells you. It doesn't matter what the officer tells you. If you say, I want an officer to come to my house and I want to see them face to face and I want to tell them about what's happening, we will come, period. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. Now, depending on the calls and what's going on, it may take a little bit. So the frustration level sits in when you call at 5, 6, 7 at night, and I can't get you somebody until 10 or 11 at night because of other events that are occurring. You can always call and say, sorry, I'm going to bed. I'll call back tomorrow. But if you demand that an officer comes, A, we will show up. And B, if you say, I want this documented, I want a report, we will write a report. We have to. It's in our policies. If they fail to write a report, or they talk you out of it, or they try to convince you not to do one, then you say, excuse me, I'm sorry, I would like to speak with your supervisor. And then I show up and I say, write a report, right? So we're not here self-serving, in terms of do what we want to do or not do what we don't want to do. We have a duty manual that's 1,000 pages thick that directs us to do certain things when asked. The bottom line is, in my 27-year career, I'm not here for me. Do I have a lot of fun in this job? Absolutely. Have I had a great career? Yes, I have. We're here for you. We're here to listen to the problems you're having in the area that you live, where you want to feel safe with your family, and do something about it. That's a simple fact. But we have younger officers. Our entire department, 50% of our department has got less than 5 years on. Mm-hmm. So what you need is a case number, right? And you don't have to be a victim to share evidence. You're just a witness, right? At that point, or, a citizen that's providing evidence on behalf of somebody else. If the person that calls decides that they don't want police contact and they don't want to report, there's nothing to attach that evidence to, right? So, imagine kind of like a tree. If I'm going to, stick a limb in something, I've got to have, a main tree to start with. Maybe that's a bad analogy. You think of a better one? Yeah. Yes, sir. I would love to tell you yes, but unfortunately, no. To my knowledge right now, there is nothing new being put in place as a direct result of these 5 incidences. Well, I'm going to be very delicate here because there's a big difference between my professional responsibility and my personal opinion, right? Personally, yeah, absolutely it is. Professionally, our responsibility in patrol is to deal with emergency calls for service and staff patrol functions adequately enough. And then it's up to the division captains to work with other units that have specialized skills, whether it's undercover units, unmarked cars, those type of things, to develop strategies to target specific problems, right? So I can't give you like a definitive, but what I can say is that continued interaction with Captain Trayer in terms of what you would like to see and what you expect as a neighborhood definitely is something that I would encourage you to continue to press. My responsibility only goes so far. In my trying to my sphere of influence is smaller, right? So I have 9 guys I can order around, and then I can talk to myself and order myself around occasionally. So by email is probably one of the best ways. I don't know if you have that. Do you have his email? Yeah. So it's Todd, TODD dot Trayer, TRAYER at San Jose, CA, all one word, .gov. Yep. Yes, ma'am. So I can't get into the demographics in terms of race or ethnicity. What I can tell you is there was one on Capitol, just south of Penitentiary Creek. There were 4 in the Penitentiary Creek, Summerdale area, all separated by half a mile. By a half a mile, maybe? Yeah. It appears that way. You know, until the robbery unit commander decides to issue a press release, if he does, with some more specifics, that I really have to be very vague about it because it's still an ongoing investigation. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I absolutely understand what you're asking, in terms of having a more measured response that is in line with what your wishes are. And the honest answer is, I just don't have that kind of power. I don't have the ability to overnight snap my fingers and order officers from one area to another or from another unit to do something specific. That is really at the command level. That's captains, chiefs. They make the decisions on certain special projects that they do. I will ask that you take a moment and consider that San Jose is a city of 1 million+ people, and the incidents that occurred in this particular area are not isolated, and they do occur in other parts of the city. Not necessarily in terms of home invasions or mass amounts of burglaries or thefts, but robberies, armed robberies, where groups will go around and terrorize people at ATMs. It happens. And it's not isolated to just San Jose either. It's a nationwide thing within all 50 states where violent crime has a severe impact. So like I said, I understand your apprehension. I absolutely can't say that enough. I just don't have the ability to do what you're asking. And it really comes from the command officers in terms of either redeployment or the formation of special either units or task forces for specific things. More than 2, less than 10, and no, I can't tell you when others are expected to be in custody, simply because it's an ongoing investigation, and it's not under my purview to be able to share that information right now. Yeah. You know, I honestly, I don't know. In terms of, let me digress for a second. My stepmother and I, for all intents and purposes, my mother. We obviously, I didn't have a great teenage years with her. I'm sure she wanted to kick me out of the house more than once, but we are very, very close right now. And we have a joke in our family where, anytime something happens or one of my kids do something, she always says, I'm going to write my congressman and tell my congressman about what's going on or what your daughter's doing. So I digress a little bit, but I can't downplay the amount of importance that civic engagement has, right? So if you feel strongly about something, absolutely, I would start at the counselor level or council aides for the district that you live in, the Berryessa district. I think it's not 10-5, District 4. Yeah. Okay. Who's council? There. Okay. Maybe you can weigh in and. Oh, perfect. There we go. Yeah. So absolutely, civic engagement. It started at the local level, work your way up, however you feel is appropriate. That's the best answer I can give you. So my officers have been asked in their free patrol time, meaning when they're not answering 911 calls, to make themselves visible in the neighborhoods. Yeah, so the city would be the one that would deal with any, non-functioning street lamps or anything else like that. I will tell you this, we do have a camera program in the city. You can register your camera at your residences with the city. And so when stuff happens, we have a list of places that we can go that we know that there are cameras. It's not a direct upload. So, nobody down at City Hall is watching a live feed from your camera or anything else like that. It's not recorded. It's just a database of cameras that are in the city. I will tell you from experience that 4K cameras are really good. Cameras that have night vision are really good. Cameras that are pointed at streets and intersections where you can catch license plates coming and going, absolutely fantastic. High resolution cameras that are not just pointed at your door or your window or anything else like that, but in a general area that catches people walking up and down, absolutely fantastic. I can't, in my professional capacity, tell you that a certain camera system or a certain alarm company or a certain business is one that you should go with. I can't promote stuff like that. So do your due diligence and your research. There's a few people that we met last week that have some phenomenal systems. I think your fellow neighbors will probably be able to point you in the right direction. Yeah, I'm going to defer to Councilman Cohen's representative to that one, because if there is a program, I honestly, I don't know. I'd be lying to you if I'd be making it up if I did. Okay. Unfortunately, I cannot give that information out. No, not at this time. You mean in terms of our response, the police response? So any additional stuff, any additional stuff comes from from three locations, basically. From conversations that I have with community, right? Like we did last week, conversations that I have with my command staff where they're directing me to do specific things, right? Or conversations that come from the community directly to council and then get filtered back through the command staff that way, right? So between all three kind of avenues, we tend to hear a good portion of what's going on or what the community wants and needs are. And then it gets filtered to the appropriate person who either can, make that a reality, or will say, sorry, this isn't under our purview. As far as a protest? Hey, no, hey, your right to peacefully assemble is guaranteed by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Pick a day and then have a blast. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I don't work. So those 3 days, perfect. I would think, council is in session on Tuesdays. Yeah. And so I think that if you would want to attend a council meeting and speak, Tuesdays are the days. And I believe if they're like anything, like I remember they post their consent calendar, right? 10 days in advance, I think. Yeah. All right. So I know there's probably more questions. I'll be more than happy to kind of wait off to the side a little bit. I don't want to eat into more of your time, or Councilmember Cohen's. Yeah, everybody's hungry. So with that, thank you for having me. Again, if you have any questions, I'll be right outside. Feel free to come bend my ear. Like I said, some stuff I can tell you, some stuff I can. It's not personal. It's just trying to protect the integrity of the investigation as it unfolds.
All right. And next, Councilmember Cohen's office, Representative Alexander is here. Now you're on the spot.
Thank you, Linda. Good evening, everybody. It's great to finally see you all in person after a year and a half of giving this report from behind a computer screen. So this is definitely a nice change. I've got a lot to share with you guys tonight, so I'm going to try and be quick, be respectful of everybody's time. But I want to first and foremost acknowledge the incidents that did happen in Summerdale and understand that you all have a lot of concerns. I want to address some of them. Sergeant Marfia gave a great report about what's happening from the police side of things. I want to talk a little bit about what's happening from the city side of things. So just in our council district specifically right now, our office is working on convening a community meeting in Summerdale in coordination with SJPD. Captain Traer will likely be there and possibly Police Chief Mata as well. Just to kind of get folks in the community out to talk about how they're feeling, talk about what we can do to protect the safety and well-being of our communities moving forward. I think the most important thing we can do is to make sure that our SJPD is staffed and funded at levels needed to make sure that they can serve the entire city. And to that end, tomorrow actually at our council meeting, the council will be voting on the mayor's budget message, which includes millions of dollars to add new staffing positions to SJPD. Somebody mentioned, I believe it was user, mentioned a camera program. So we do have a camera pilot program. The budget message includes more funding for that to expand that further, as well as a number of other things to further empower and staff and fund our police department because as you're saying, as Sergeant Marfia was saying, it's very understaffed, it's very lightly staffed, especially for a city of 1 million people. So one of our priorities tomorrow is going to be making sure that our budget addresses those needs as much as possible. And that's something that we're going to continue to work towards in the, excuse me, in the future. Do we have any more questions about sort of the city side of things on that? Yes. Well, unfortunately, it's true. I mean, like I said, it's a city of 1 million people. It's a very large city, and our staffing needs are very great. And so the mayor's budget message that we're going to vote on tomorrow does recognize that we do need more funding to make sure that we have as many staffing positions as possible to make sure that every part of the city is being served. And so that's one of our concerns, is to make sure we have as much of a budget as we need to serve the city and keep folks safe. That I'm not sure about. Sergeant Marfia knows, of course. That was my mistake. All right, yeah. So why don't you let me give you the rest of the report, and then we can take questions at the end. And of course, our office is always open, email, phone, for folks to call in, to write in with any questions that we have. We're always very quick about responding. So just want to let folks know about that as well. But as I said, we do have a budget message tomorrow that we're voting on. It includes police funding. It also includes something that our office has been pushing on from a few months back, which is restoring all our city libraries, including in Berryessa, to full pre-pandemic hours. Particularly on Sundays, because we realize that these libraries are very important to the community. They're very important to our Berryessa families and to the kids. So I want to make sure that they're open and that folks are being able to enjoy them the way they did before the pandemic. We're also working to secure over $2 million in investments for the district through the budget process. So that's for things like traffic safety improvements. That's for things like maintenance and upkeep of some of our parks, things like that. And even though this budget session is ending this year, there's always going to be next year. So one thing we always want to let folks know is we're always open to suggestions for next year's budget session. So if there's a street in your neighborhood where you've been noticing a lot of reckless driving, a lot of speeding, sideshow activities, if there's a park in your neighborhood that you think could use a little TLC, we always want to let folks know, write into us and let us know, because we can then make sure we get funding for that in next year's budget session. I also want to let folks know about some upcoming events that we have going on, in particular the National Night Out that's happening on August 3rd. I know that you guys have a great National Night Out in Berryessa pretty much every year. As you know, it's a great opportunity for folks to come out, for neighborhoods to get together and just kind of build community, which I think is a really important thing in any year, but especially, as we're coming out of the pandemic and sort of rebuilding the community bonds. So our office is going to be hosting a National Night Out event in Cataldi Park on August 3rd. But one of the great things about National Night Out is that anybody can do it. So if you're interested in hosting a National Night Out event on August 3rd in your neighborhood, if you have a park there or anything like that, reach out to us. We're happy to provide any resources, any information, anything you need to make that happen, because it really is a great way to get folks together and just build community. And last but not least, you may be wondering why I brought this sign up. As we all know, 4th of July is coming up. And in San Jose, 4th of July always means fireworks. So the city has been campaigning for a while now to try and eliminate fireworks. And one of the things we've noticed is that people don't realize the effect that fireworks often have on households that have veterans, on households that have pets. They do this because they're not aware of the effects that it has. And so among other things that our office is doing, we've created these signs to let folks know, hey, we have pets, many households have veterans in them, and fireworks do have a very tangible negative effect on those households, on those pets, and on those folks. So if you would like one of these signs, I have some flyers here. You can just scan the QR code. It also has some information on how you can report fireworks. And this is in conjunction on some work that we're doing with SJPD on the enforcement side of things to make sure that whenever we have reports to these fireworks, they're followed up on. And to the greatest extent possible, we can identify who's responsible for them because, again, not only are the fireworks bad for the quality of life in San Jose, they're also plain illegal. So that is my report for today. I know we have a few questions. Linda, do we have some time to? Yeah, sure. Do we have any questions that I can answer? Yes. Yeah, so there's a lot of different aspects of the budget process, and it's all being implemented on different timelines. So we don't have a timeline specifically for the cameras or for any of the items at this point because they haven't even been approved yet. They're coming to the council tomorrow. Once they get approved, once city staff starts working on them, then we'll have a better sense of what the timelines are. And I'd be happy to share, if you want to, I can talk with you after this really quick. I can share my contact information with you so you can follow up, and I'll be happy to share as soon as we have information on the timeline on any of the budget items that you might be interested in. Yes, sir. Yeah, so that's a great question. Pretty much as soon as we heard about the incidents, we started reaching out to Captain Trayer's team. As you heard, Captain Trayer's out of town, but his team has been super responsive, very great to work with, just to find out, what happened, what are the details, what can we share with folks, and what are kind of the next steps. So we've been having conversations with SJPD about that. Obviously, Sergeant Marfia shared as much as he could about the investigations. There are certain things that can't be shared. From our end, I think what we can share is that, again, on one hand, there's the budget process. It was not specifically in response to the events that took place last month, but it's in response to events like that we decided that, look, we need to make sure that our SJPD is as staffed and funded as we can possibly make sure that it is. I think the important thing right now is for our office to make sure that we're hearing from residents, hearing from folks in the neighborhood, folks throughout Berryessa, and make sure that they know that we're listening and that throughout the budget process, throughout the year, we're working on policies and on funding opportunities to make sure that public safety is addressed in San Jose and in Berryessa. So, the budget process is one of those ways. Over the year to come, we're going to be looking at other ways that we can implement policies and strategies just to protect the safety and the well-being of our communities in Berryessa. All right, thank you very much.
All right. From the Santa Clara Valley Water District, Richard Santos. He always has something to tell us and maybe give us. Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Linda. Good evening, everybody. I'm Richard Santos, your director of the Santa Clara Valley Water District. And so it's a challenging time for everybody. So let me get my glasses on because I do want to take the time. Usually we just say a couple things and that's the end of it. But does everybody understand that we're in a severe drought? Do you believe it? Because we're not acting that way. So I'm not here to complain. I'm here to help and educate. This is a very, very serious issue. So first of all, before we get started, I do want to take the time. Bob Gross is out there. He's a Korean War veteran. And I served 10 years later, and we have guys like Ty Graves, and I can go on to serve this country. And it's the greatest country in the world. But when you have a 24% voting rate in this county, it's sad, folks. This is a freedom to vote. And when you don't express your opinion and you come here or anywhere and we complain about the police or the elected people, you're responsible. So I take my voting seriously. I'm sure all of you do, but there's a whole bunch of folks that didn't. So save your complaints. You're responsible. When you talk about the police officer, Wally was here talking about the mailboxes. I live up in Sierra Road. We all got locked boxes because they stole all our mail. Years ago, mail used to be a real serious issue. It's a joke today. The mail people won't come out. Nobody does the damn thing. So you're on your own. I know what it's about. You talk about police officers being not hired. I sit on the San Jose Police Fire and Retirement System. We have probably about 10 to 15 every month retiring, and we're not bringing them in. Who's responsible? Well, you don't have to wait for the budget. I'm not knocking our council person, but you have to direct him, say, go to that meeting and put it on the agenda. We want to hire more police officers. That's what you got to do. If you don't take active, you got to blame yourselves. So I've been there. I worked 33 years in the fire department, and I fought every day to make sure we have more. And we had a couple of people who were mayor here, and they lost them all. Here we go today. So here's my blessing. We got to start out right. Here's an issue in the paper. The reason I bring it here because about common sense. Most of you folks have common sense when it comes to water. Here's what a lady wrote. The state must expand use of recycling water. On May 12th, the Coastal Commission voted on the proposed Poseidon-Huntington Beach desalination plant was a unanimous and resounding no. Desalination is not the best solution for California's water problem, especially private-owned desalination. The reason I'm saying this, I get these questions all the time, and I want to educate you folks. We've been fighting California. American investors own desalination here on Monterey Peninsula for years. But now recycling water is recharging our groundwater and providing 1/3 of our portable water to Pure Water Monterey. What California really needs is a massive state program to get potable recycling water projects up and running. Orange County has the largest recycling water project in the state. The project has been replenishing its groundwater for decades, and that's one reason it didn't need Poseidon's desalination. California count on the Coastal Commission to make decisions based on science, and facts, and to ignore political pressure. This was quite a victory for the corporate greed and political coercion. So folks, I'm going to ask you this. Do you know in San Jose that do we have a recycling plant? And if you get the answer right, I'm going to give you something because you paid for it. Is it? Go ahead. Not Milpitas, I said San Jose. And there is no recycling plant in Milpitas. It is in Alvisa, which is San Jose. So with that brings me to my next thing. See these buckets here? Your taxes pay for them. And we give them out in the water district. And what I did is I take my water from my shower for 40 years and I put it on my trees. And I recapture water off my property. This is what I grow. That grew this. No toxics, no nothing, natural. So you get a bag of plums from me. The reason I bring that recycling plant up, because the city of San Jose has not agreed to work with the water district to expand that from 40 to 80 million gallons a day. Right now we have 8 to 10. We're partners with the city of Santa Clara, the city of San Jose. You've got to tell your council person to work with me and be a leader in that. Because if you don't have recycling water, then how are you going to hook up and use domestic water for your lawns and toilets and all that. The Santa Clara School District built 3 schools over there off of Zanka Road. I went to the meetings like you come here, and I protested, said, why are you not putting recycling water in this school? Their board voted against it. How do you do that? So I got mine. How the children are going to learn? So they hooked up, they landscaped, but the toilets and showers, and I can go on and on. So we can't be making those mistakes. Right now, you approved 32,000 units at North First Street, and you got a half a mile away, you have purple pipe, yet this city council won't hook up. Folks, there is not enough water. You got to do a better job. So I'm not preaching to you, I'm educating you. And it's a serious issue. So here on June 1st, there's called enforcement. We'll be taking action. That's all the cities, water district, whatever we can do legally. But I'm not here to worrying about criminalizing anybody. We've got to just stop. And here's what we're doing. Enforcement starts on June 1st. You're watering ornamental lawns more than 2 days a week, watering any outdoor landscaping between 7 and 9, and I can go on. Excessive runoff, private, walkways, instead of sweeping, people are still washing them off. I can go on and on. I see sprinkler heads broken in the city, your pathways still watering. And so water outdoors within 48 hours of a storm produces at least 1/4. The water district offers you free home inspections. Your taxes pay for it. Take advantage of it. You can see me offline, I'll help you. There's the great things we can do. We have, and here's another thing. When you elect folks, whether it be the assembly, the state, you got to make sure these people know about water, because they don't. And they got to do a better job because there's not enough to go around, and they need to be educated, and you need to demand that, because if you don't have that recycling plant, water's going to run out, and you can't buy what you don't have. So I go on. Again, I'm not preaching. It's a serious issue. And the only way you're going to do it is by we all chip in. That's the only way. Thank you. I'm here for questions if you need it. Linda, that's for you. Well, send me over here, ma'am, because they're taking a lot of time. By the way, where's the treatment plant in the Berryessa area? Do you know where it is? All due respect, I will talk to you over here because I don't want to take away the meeting. But I do want to give you a water bucket with a nozzle, faucets, and all those good things. All right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for listening.
Okay. The Berryessa School District Superintendent, Dr. Roxanne Fuentes.
Good evening, everyone. I'll make this short. I know we have a very important presentation still to do. So we concluded another school year just this past Friday. So again, I just want to thank all of our community for being our partners to have a successful school year. It was a challenging one, reopening schools, bringing children back safely, but everyone did it. We had all of our promotions on Thursday and Friday. We promoted a little over 730 8th graders, so sending them off to Eastside Union High School District now. It was nice to be able to celebrate them in person again. It'd been over 3 years since we had an in-person promotion, and we had the opportunity to host those celebrations at Piedmont Hills High School. So really nice event to be able to do that. Everyone's on a little bit of a reprieve this week, but then next week on Tuesday, all of our summer programs begin. So this summer, we're offering summer programs for our English learner students. We also have some intervention support for math. We're offering summer school for our special education students, as well as computer science course offerings. We also have increased our summer camp opportunities because we really saw with remote instruction, our children just really miss being with each other and just really missed having lots of physical activity, including their learning. So this summer, we're offering summer camps at Summerdale, at Toyon, at Vincy Park, at Brooktree. So lots of activity, and then summer school at Brooktree, Majestic Way, and Sierramont Middle School. So that'll be going on, as I mentioned, from June 21st all the way through July 18th. We will also have some construction going on this summer. We try to take advantage of that time to really get some more intensive projects accomplished. So some of you that live by Piedmont Middle School, so not too far from here, we are in the midst of building a new gymnasium for our students there. And so that'll be some of the groundbreaking work that'll start this summer. And with that, just wanted to again thank you. And our new school year will start August 11th. So very short summer, and then everyone will be right back with us. We will continue to have our COVID testing program available to our staff at the district office and to our students that are involved in our summer program at all of the school sites that I mentioned. We're still waiting from the California Department of Public Health to hear what health guidances will be in place for next school year. So as soon as we get that information, we'll be sure to share that with all of our families. And, we also will continue to host vaccination clinics. And we offered that this past year, not just to our students, but to our community at large, especially as we get ready to launch another school year and with increased eligibility of the under 5 and under. We'll be sure to host some community clinics for that, as well. As we were looking at our data points for this past year, we're very proud to have been able to offer over a dozen community vaccination clinics here in our Berryessa community alone. So thank you for taking advantage of those opportunities. Those were all run through either the county or through Safeway. That was really one of our best partners as we looked at launching all of these initiatives. So thank you very much. Just want to wish you all a good summer.
Thank you. All right, Mike Flauher is here tonight, and he would like to introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you, Linda. OSA has been working very hard. Some of you may know that we've been in the news lately about purchasing land down in the Coyote Valley and other places. But you can get to OSA and you can get to one of our preserves by just going up Penitentiary Creek Road and going through Alum Rock Park if you'd like to hike it. And get to our Sierra Vista open space, or you can take Sierra Road to get there. But OSA is that entity that's out there in the transition out of the valley from city parks and county parks and those kind of places to the open spaces out and beyond that you see when you look around the valley here. So Mark is going to talk to us tonight. Mark is our external affairs manager, and he's going to tell us more about what's happening with OSA. And Mark, if you'll come join me over here.
All right, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Linda. And thank you, everybody, for having us here tonight to give a presentation about the Open Space Authority that Mike was just talking about. I was here, well, actually here virtually with you about a year ago giving a presentation. So how many attended that virtual presentation? Okay, several of you. And how many of you are already familiar with the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority? Many of you. Oh, that's great. That's really great to hear. I hope you take advantage of some of the trails and programs that we offer. So, but I see some people who are not as familiar with us, and I am going to go through a few slides just to talk about who we are to start with. But I really want this to be a conversation. I don't want to just download a bunch of information to you. So please raise your hand and interrupt me as I'm going along if you have any questions. And then there'll certainly be some time at the end of it too for more questions. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So the jurisdiction of the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority, which was created about 30 years ago by the state legislature, is pretty much the area that you see here. A little bit blurry, but I think you can tell, we're up right now at the top of the map where it says Sierra Vista Open Space Preserve that Mike was just talking about, just above the Berryessa neighborhood. And our jurisdiction includes not only the city of San Jose, but also Milpitas and Santa Clara, Campbell, Morgan Hill, and then the unincorporated areas of the county. So everything you see here and the darkest areas that you see are the open space preserves that we currently have open to the public for hiking, mountain biking, equestrian use. And then all of those little green acorns, and there are far more of them, this is an older map, are projects that we've done in the urban areas. We're also very active in the urban areas, not just on the periphery, to bring nature to people. Many people have more difficulty accessing open space in the rural areas, or school programs, like was just mentioned. We participate in environmental education at the libraries, including here in Berryessa, and work on a lot of urban trail projects too. So I'll talk more about that in just a second, but that's kind of the area that we're in. One thing I wanted to mention actually while I have this slide up is Sierra Vista and Alum Rock Park are adjacent to each other. Alum Rock Park, of course, is run by the city of San Jose, and we operate the preserve. The trails interconnect, and we also have a management agreement where we work together to make more efficient use of taxpayer dollars because we share services back and forth. We do a lot of the weed management for the city. They provide facilities that we can use. It's really a great partnership. So, our mission is really to conserve natural resources. It's to connect people to nature, and it's to support agriculture. And so we really want to be able to protect wildlife and other important natural resources, water. We work very closely with Valley Water and protect the natural floodplain for flood risk reduction, but also to recharge the aquifer so that we can have more of that water to drink that's so precious that Dick was mentioning earlier. We want to protect our beautiful vistas, all in the hills around us and in the urban areas, provide places for people to enjoy the outdoors, but also have kids connect with nature and agriculture, learn where their food comes from. So there are a lot of projects that we do that help with that. So really it comes down to protecting watersheds, wildlife, and working lands. We do protect land through land acquisition. We buy land with our own funding and then funding from partners through grants. And then that permanently protects the land from development so that it can be enjoyed for public recreation, but also for those natural resources I was talking about. We do a lot of work through our staff and with our volunteers to steward and heal the lands so that they can better function to help build more climate resilience. And I'll talk more about that in a second here too. And then we also do quite a bit of work leading conservation initiatives, especially lately climate-related initiatives. We engage our diverse communities in many ways through those volunteer programs that I was referring to, but also through docent-led tours. We have a large team of docents that lead hikes on those lands that are not yet open to the public broadly, and also on those preserves that are. So we have a lot of ways that we engage with folks. These are some of the reports that we've produced over the years in partnership with others. So for instance, the Santa Clara Valley Agricultural Plan is a vision for protection of the remaining agriculture here in the Valley of Heart's Delight. There is still agriculture that's very viable and productive in the southern part of our county. And we work, and I know Valley Water works very closely with agricultural producers too, to allow them to have, for instance, a break on water rates so that they are producing food at a reasonable, with a reasonable rate. And we work with farmers to help protect land and give access to farmers that otherwise may not have that ability based on the high price of real estate here. So lots of different programs involved there that we work closely with the county on. And then in Coyote Valley that Mike was also talking about earlier, the landscape linkage report is an important study that develops a vision for how wildlife can move across Coyote Valley from one mountain range to another, because they're running out of places to do that. They can get across Highway 1, but for instance, Monterey Road is a huge barrier there that we're working with the city of San Jose, Caltrans, the High Speed Rail Authority to improve the crossing of those areas. There are some other reports too. I'm happy to answer questions, but I want to just continue the talk here and then make sure we do have some time at the end too. Yeah.
We at this point feel that Coyote Valley has once and for all saved
That's a very good question. So I don't know if everybody heard, the question is whether we can consider Coyote Valley to be permanently protected at this point. And the answer is much of North Coyote Valley is now permanently protected. So whatever is owned by either the city of San Jose, the Open Space Authority, or Peninsula Open Space Trust, one of our nonprofit partners, that can be considered protected. But there are still some lands that the city of San Jose recently changed the zoning on back in November. So those are protected through policy, but until they're actually purchased, it's not necessarily permanent protection because policy can be changed back at some future point as well. So, so I would say most of it in the northern part of Coyote Valley, which is within San Jose city limits. And then within the remainder of Coyote Valley, there are some protected lands there too. But honestly, we don't intend to buy all of that. Certainly, I mean, private ownership is very important in our country, right? And the same is true here in our valley. And we like to work with farmers and agricultural operators that in ways that support agriculture as a whole so that they can continue their operations and produce food. So contributing to agricultural infrastructure and supporting other activities that support them. So I hope that's not evasive. But okay, thank you. Thanks for asking. All right, so let me talk a little bit more about the climate resilience. So as many of you might remember, back in 2017, there were some really damaging floods. A lot of people lost a lot of property and lives were at risk. There was $100 million worth of damage in the city of San Jose from that flooding. And, our protection of Coyote Valley is very important to contribute to that reduction of flood risk, like what happened in 2017. Coyote Valley was there to absorb some of those flood waters and slow them down, which gave first responders a little bit more time to get people out. I can't say that it's the entire solution. Certainly flood control activities that Valley Water is involved in are extremely important and are actually a much bigger part of the total picture. But the natural floodplain and natural infrastructure that we work to protect is an important component of that. And anything we can do to improve the situation, we want to do that. So Coyote Valley has helped in floods like 2017 and will continue because, as we know from climate change, storms are likely to get more intense when they do happen. Hopefully we get some rain again sometime in the not too distant future, but we know that weather patterns are going to get more intense. And so we want to do everything we can to protect our surrounding communities, and protecting that floodplain is a really important part of that. Also protecting our communities from wildfire by giving a well-managed buffer around homes and other parts of our community. That's very important too. And so providing that urban green belt around our urban communities is part of what we do as well. And we manage those lands for fire and to reduce fuels. And then like we saw with the pandemic, right? It's so important, especially during situations like that, that people have a place to go to experience nature, to feel some relief, to be outside where they can feel safe and also have some ability for just spiritual and mental recovery. And not just during a pandemic, but that's when we especially notice it. And interestingly, right away, as the first 2 months of the pandemic unfolded and areas were on lockdown, there was an immediate doubling of visitation to our preserves in a safe way, 6 feet apart, masks on, but we saw doubling, and then for a time tripling of our visitation. So it hasn't been that extreme anymore, not lately, but it's still more than double what it used to be before COVID. So we are seeing a lasting effect of people wanting to be out in nature. Oh, actually, let me go back one. There we go. So these are the acorns I was showing before, but as you can see here, there are far more of them. And each acorn and in each different color represents a type of project that we've done in the urban areas. This is an online map. You can see the link down there at openspaceauthority.org. And so you can go in there and click on each one of those acorns in your community if you want to find out what kinds of urban projects have been delivered over the past, this is over the past 8 years now from Measure Q and Measure T that were passed by the voters at that time. So I encourage you to go take a look at those. I wanted to mention one project in particular that's right here in the Berryessa area. So in 2016, we granted funding to the Bay Area Ridge Trail Council to build a trail connection from the Berryessa BART station. At that time, it wasn't open yet, but they knew it was coming. And they built a trail system with signage all the way along Penitentiary Creek and then up to Alum Rock Park and into the open space preserve. And so that trail system now is a big part of the Bay Area Ridge Trail. And the strategic plan that was published by the Ridge Trail Council just today shows pieces of Coyote Creek Trail being connected by the city of San Jose, hopefully over the next few years, that will create a full loop from Coyote Valley through Berryessa and then up to Alum Rock Park and the open space preserve. Really exciting. So talking a little bit more about Coyote Valley, this is an aerial view of Coyote Valley with urban San Jose to the right in this picture and Monterey Highway 101 down in the bottom. And so this is the area that has been so important to protect for floodplain and wildlife connectivity, future trail systems, groundwater recharge, agriculture, all these things come together in Coyote Valley. And when I was making the presentation last year at the Berryessa Community Advisory Council meeting, this is what the map looked like. Already a lot of that protected. And to your question, sir, earlier, the areas in green here are those that are permanently protected by having been purchased. So that was the picture a year ago, already a good chunk of Coyote Valley protected. And now this is the map. It's a little bit hard to see, but everything outlined in orange there is what's protected. And these are the areas that are new since a year ago. Especially want to point out this piece at the bottom here. That's a 60-acre agricultural parcel just to the east of Santa Teresa Boulevard at Laguna. And that's one that we are working on with farmers to have that in active agriculture. And in the future, hope to have pilot projects for regenerative agriculture that helps to sequester carbon in the soil to help mitigate climate change. Stay tuned. There will be some news that I can't divulge information about right now, but later in the next week or two, there'll be news about who's going to be farming there for the next year. And the overview of Coyote Valley shows the different tiers that we're going to be working on through the master planning process. So now we have this land, but we don't want it to just sit there. Certainly it's providing a lot of services to the community all the time, but we do want to see what kind of recreational access and other amenities we can provide there that are beneficial to the community and beneficial to nature at the same time. So we're going to be going through a public process over the next several years to do master planning there, getting input from experts, but also from members of the community like yourselves. And we would love to work with the advisory council on that specifically to get your inputs when there's a chance to do so. So what I wanted to show you was, well, there's one slide here that shows some of the goals for master planning, natural resource related, many of them, but also public access. But this is the timeline where we're here in 2022 right now. We're just starting the process with our consultants to understand what we have out there in Coyote Valley in detail. But then towards the end of this year and then into the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to have a lot of public workshops and means for digital input, through our website and social media, tours out to Coyote Valley to gather people's input. So really encourage you to go to our website and sign up if you'd like to get news about the master planning. And then you will be invited to attend those workshops and opportunities for input. Because we want to hear from as many people throughout our jurisdiction as we can on what they'd like to see out in Coyote Valley. We want to make it everybody's preserve. Also wanted to mention that, as a preview to the master planning that we're going to be doing, we put on a webinar series last fall. So these September dates are for last year, 2021, but those are still available on our website. So if you want to go back and hear more about some of the technical aspects of Coyote Valley, some of the Native American work that we're doing with our tribal partners, both some of their cultural history, but also what we're going to be working with them on in the future. Some very interesting information in those 3 webinars. So I encourage you to go there and take a look. Moving on, so up in the hills above Coyote Valley, I wanted to mention that we are working on opening a new trail system in our jurisdiction. So that's at Coyote Ridge, which is just to the east of Highway 101 there, just south of, well, actually, just to the east of the Bailey interchange as you drive down 101 into Coyote Valley. So that area that's depicted here by an artist's drawing is going to open next year, hopefully early, like in the springtime or so. So we'll have a lot of public information when that opening happens. And then also I wanted to give an update on Sierra Road. And in the past, we have received a lot of questions about activities on Sierra Road, and certainly we are very communicative with our neighbors that live along Sierra Road. As you may know, sometimes people park along the side of Sierra Road, causing a nuisance, sometimes safety issues, sometimes they're doing illegal activities. In general, we do everything we can to work with law enforcement, both with the city of San Jose as well as the county sheriff's department, to deal with those issues. And we've been doing a lot of things adaptively over time to improve the situation up there. One of the recent things that we've done is to install cameras with loudspeakers at our parking lot. So we close our gates at sunset, but a lot of people go up there even after our gates are closed and try to get in or park their car at the front of the gate and then jump over. And so we can see them on cameras, and then there's a speaker that our open space technicians can speak to them and identify them by clothing that they're wearing to tell them to get off the property. And it's pretty effective. People don't want to be identified that way. So that's one thing that we've done recently that's helped. And the other thing is that a lot of people go up to watch the sunset, and it's a beautiful sunset up there, and we have nothing against that. But if people are lining up at the parking lot and then backing up onto Sierra Road, in doing so, it creates a lot of traffic safety issues. And so what we do is let people go into the parking lot, but then close the gates half an hour or 45 minutes before the sunset. And that keeps people from backing up there onto Sierra Road, but the people who are already in can stay and watch the sunset until they're done, and then we close the gates behind them. So, and it takes a lot of staff to do this, but we want to give people the best experience possible, and at the same time address the safety and concerns that people have, both the neighbors as well as the visiting public. So what I wanted to do to finish up here is just let you know about some of the ways that if you're interested, we would very much welcome you and invite you to get involved. So we have stewardship activities where you can grab a shovel and help do trail maintenance or take out invasive weeds on our properties. You can also work on trail patrol, where all you do is walk the trails and report back in on a timely basis if you see any issues out there. We have other volunteer opportunities, like I mentioned, docent training, if you want to become a docent and lead hikes for our groups. And you can also become a volunteer interpreter and help with programs at libraries and schools here in the urban areas. We do a lot of events throughout the year, so you can also take a look at our event calendar on the website if you want to get more information about that. You can just participate as a member of the public. You don't have to necessarily volunteer, of course. As I already talked about, those master planning workshops for Coyote Valley are coming up, and we encourage you to sign up for announcements about those and then participate in them once they come. And then we have 2 board meetings every month. They've been virtual, but we're going to go back to in-person probably starting in July or possibly August. But we invite you to come to our board meetings too. They take place at our headquarters on Las Colinas Lane in South San Jose. And then every other month we have Citizens Advisory Committee meetings, and those are public meetings as well, where our committee discusses issues and to inform the board. So encourage you to take part in those civic engagement opportunities. So with that, that's really the information I had to provide, and I am happy to take any questions you might have. Yes. Wow. Or even if you do, no. Well, thank you. Thank you for the very kind comments and for taking part in some of our activities, and then for the news about the friend that you have that's making such a generous donation. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Yes. And oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, there are places where animals can cross currently. There are a lot of culverts underneath Highway 101. So that it's not ideal, but it's pretty good. But Monterey Highway is the major barrier, with the concrete barrier in the middle and then a metal screen. It's to prevent headlights from being seen by the opposing traffic. But we are working with the city to, over time, create some either gaps or a modified structure that allows animals to cross, because they get to that point and then they can't cross, and then they very often get hit. And so it's not only a hazard to the animals, of course, but to the drivers as well. And so we can make it safer for both by making those changes. And as a matter of fact, as was mentioned earlier, the mayor's budget memo is going to be considered by the city council in San Jose tomorrow. And there's a suggestion for $100,000 from the city to go to a feasibility study for improvements to the wildlife corridor like that, but then also potentially in the future, even a wildlife crossing bridge or more significant undercrossings under Monterey Highway. I don't know. I don't know if you know anything about that, Mike, because you are more involved with the Ridge Trail Council.
Before I got involved in OSA, I did a lot of work with city parks and county parks. And that last 1,100 feet from the bridge, the covered bridge, which is private, by the way, into the park, has many engineering problems that nobody wants to spend that kind of money to solve. Because there's sliding hillsides, the roadway isn't wide enough, and there, I know at one point we even talked about, hanging it off a hillside, a cantilevered structure, and the people that live in the area were having none of that. Well, it's up to the county and city to work that out. We've always encouraged to have the trail finished correctly into the park. Because if you go and look at it on the city website, that less 1,100 feet isn't officially trail, because it can't be a separated walkway. No, it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, so good question. The Open Space Authority does negotiate with willing sellers to purchase property. Sometimes we purchase a conservation easement, which means we just buy the development rights, not the fee title. But usually it's the fee title, full acquisition. And then we manage the property. And yes, where trails are appropriate, then we also build the trails ourselves. Or hire contractors, to do the projects. I did want to mention, though, sometimes other organizations like Peninsula Open Space Trust will do the negotiating with a willing seller. They, as a private entity, we're a public agency, but a private entity can have those confidential discussions without it being on a public agenda. And so sometimes landowners much prefer that. Then they would purchase the land and then at a later time, sell it to us for long-term management. Yeah, in the same way. Yeah. Yeah, so it happens different ways. Yeah. 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 Thank you, Director Santos. Appreciate that. We love working with Valley Water, and you guys do an incredible job as well. Especially under difficult circumstances like we got right now with the drought. Boy, don't envy you on that. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
When Mike was a little more active with BCAC, he was always informing us about what was going on. March coming down, we need to have these trails. I just feel like everything's coming true that you said was going to happen. And so we're glad that you keep us informed and you still make sure that we know what's going on with open space. So it's very appreciative. I don't know who has a phone. Check it out. I was hoping I'd get home for the last few minutes, but apparently not. Let's see. I just have a couple announcements. We are going to have a special meeting in July. Usually we have July and August off. I have to get out of that light. We usually have July and August off, but we decided that we'd like to have a general meeting on July 11th. We'll send out the agenda like we usually do. And it's to kind of brainstorm ideas of what you would like to see us do. We've had a number of projects that we've done over the last couple of years. And what else would you like to see us do? and kind of update you on the project that we have about the park. So we have some things that we'd really like to cover. And we also have some things that we might do a special event on July 23rd. So we're still working with that to see what that's going to be, but we want to just keep you informed. We will have a board meeting next Monday for our BCAC board. Are we having it at the DO? Oh, is it a holiday? Oh, okay. So we'll have to find a place, but we need to have one so we can plan for July 11th. All right. And we were really informed tonight, and we have lots of cookies. I've already tested them. They're very good. Yes, sir. Okay. Do you want to bring that to the meeting on July 13th when we have some time? Oh, okay. Okay, great. All right, and have cookies and coffee and water. And then we got to push all those chairs back. Yes. Oh, we need cookies for the July 11th meeting. If anybody would like to volunteer now for cookies. All right, we may have some left over. All right, the meeting is adjourned. I'm not even going to ask if we need to, but we need to be out of here in the next few minutes. So let's get your cookies, coffee, and push the chairs back towards the tables. Thank you.
And I forgot to mention earlier, if you want some materials out by the door right here about the Open Space Authority and our volunteer opportunities, please don't hesitate to pick those up.